Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
In this thread, stories, personal experiences, legends, and other scary shit about or from populated areas.
Live in a mid-sized southern city, big for the area but dumpy compared to more populated areas. A fair amount of high-rises and such, but very little urban density and verticality. Most all restaurants and stores are their own buildings and not the ground floor of a high-rise like you'd find in bigger cities. Cold, rainy, foggy, gloomy, etc. kind of day. Walking around with some friends from out of town looking for a place to get out of the rain. Two of the friends are both fairly similar looking but not related. Duck into a little cafe. We're looking down to avoid the rain this whole time and don't get a good look at the building. Order food and sit down. One friend has to go to the bathroom and takes the other similar girl with her. The man at the counter gives them the code for the lock and points out a door in the back. 10 minutes later, they're still gone, and the rest of us are becoming concerned. Suddenly, I get a text. "Anon, it's scary up here. Can you please come up and help us? We're on the 4th floor." I'm perplexed already since I assumed we were in a single-story building. Go into the back room with the restroom sign and discover it's not a back room but an ornate luxury skyscraper lobby. Very old decor, clean but looks kind of unmaintained. There's a fish tank in the corner but it's moldy and the fish are dead. Take the elevator up to the 4th floor. As soon as I get off, everything feels wrong, like I've intruded somewhere I really shouldn't have. I'm in a long hallway of offices, again with old-fashioned decor in a really unsettling way, like it had been abandoned since the 50s but just forgot to decay. You know how Kubrick made all the sets for The Shining architecturally contradictory to make viewers uncomfortable? It felt exactly like that. Completely silent, no one else on the floor. I'm almost afraid to move. I feel like if I turn a corner, it'll just be a labyrinth that goes on forever. Start creeping around looking for the bathroom. Most doors are locked and have frosted glass so you can't see in, but I can see into one just labeled classroom, and inside is totally destroyed. Overturned and smashed up desks, ripped out ceiling tiles, knocked over lamps, etc. Finally find the bathroom right next to a little break room that has seemingly the only modern technology in the building. Some vending machines from the 90s. Still haven't seen a single other person in the whole building besides the worker in the restaurant. Text friends I'm here, and they sprint out of the bathroom in tears. Apparently, when they arrived, 2 identical red-headed men had been sitting in the break room and had stopped them and said in unison, "Hi, we're twins. Are you twins too?" They calmly explained that they merely looked alike and then ran into the bathroom to break down, which is when they texted me. It can't have been more than 3 or 4 minutes from me getting the text to finding them, but the twins are completely gone. They tell me the bathroom is scary as hell too and bring me in to see it. Again, it has this bizarre, ancient, abandoned luxury aesthetic. There's an opulent lounge with ancient decor, peeling wallpaper, an old scale in the corner, and one of the stalls has collapsed in on itself, getting pretty freaked. Decide to try and investigate the whole building for real. Head to the top floor and get into the service stairs to look for roof access. Sitting on a pipe in the staircase like a pedestal is what seems to be an ancient fertility goddess statue carved out of wood. Dumbass friend takes it for himself. He goes back to school at the end of the week and leaves the statue in my house. This was right before New Year's. All next year I had shit luck. I struck out hard with the girl I was talking to at the time. My close friend group disintegrated, and I went from a very social, confident optimist to a depressed hermit who browses/x/. Go back there several times. I always feel like I'm being watched. I've started noticing weird stains in the elevators, and sometimes the lights start glowing red. It's unsettling as hell. Finally, the same friend that took the statue comes back for New Year's again. On the 1-year anniversary of the first time we went, we ceremonially returned the statue to its rightful place. Since then, my life has improved amazingly. Friend group reunited, gotten plenty of girls, became way more outgoing, etc. Try to go back once after returning the statue, and there's now a security guard closing off the upper floors. My quest is complete. Totally possible the whole thing with the statue was all coincidence and placebo, but that's true for most /X/ events. Regardless, something was very, very off about that building. Just walking around, you felt like something was always waiting for you to turn the wrong corner so it could trap you. I've got some pictures of it around on my phone. I'll post them if anyone's interested. Okay, I'm back. Here's the light glowing red. This was on my second or third visit. It was definitely white before and was white the next time I came. Here's one of the hallways. Here's the classroom. Not a great angle. Most of the destroyed stuff was off to the right side where it couldn't be seen from the door. And the only time I actually went in was when the guard caught me before I could get any good pics. It was weird as hell, though. Lots of old dusty radios and construction equipment, presumably from a failed renovation, as well as several expired cases of some energy drink I'd never heard of, probably left behind by workers too. And here's my friend returning the statue to its original location.
The wrong city. Late at night, I decided to go for a walk. I would go to the convenience store, buy a bag of chips and a soft drink and go back home. Long walk, but I enjoyed it. Unfortunately, once I got to my destination, something was wrong. None of my cards would work. As the clerk reset his terminal, I checked the website for my bank, and there was a message telling me everything is down. I showed it to the clerk, we apologized to each other, and I went back on my way. However, I decided I would take a different, more roundabout route back home. The air felt brisk on my skin, and I didn't mind not getting my snack. The snack was an excuse. The walk was the true goal. However, as I walked back, things got even stranger. I found that I was in a completely alien environment. The more I progressed, the more I was surrounded by tall, dark spires in perfect rows. The sky adopted a strange glow, which I could not explain. It still definitely looked like a city. There were even cars parked in the streets and street signs, but it was wrong. My surroundings had gone from natural and urban to stark and monolithic. Though it appeared designed for humans, it did not appear designed by humans. I could feel an overbearing presence above me, like I had intruded somewhere forbidden. I hurried on my way, on what should be the way home. The road took strange turns, twisting in abnormal and apparently random ways. I would come across roads to nowhere. Strange beams flashed across the sky, and then I was back. Back in the sane world. Back on the street which would lead me back home. I turned around, and the cyclopean world I had just traversed was gone. Gone but for some pictures I took.
I live in Louisville, Kentucky. It's a nice city, and obviously fairly urbanized, at least for the South. I'm in the outskirts of the city, though. It's just a short drive and I can get to Kroger, Walmart, Target, and what have you. But my neighborhood is at the end of a lonely road. This being Kentucky, there's a few horse farms, but most of the road is surrounded and even covered over by dense forest. There's more thick woods behind the house, and even a large creek. The neighborhood has a lot of people, though, even a country club. The basic effect of all this is that when you're out at my place, you never really realize just how rural and out in the boondocks the area is. Even living there for years, I never realized it until fairly recently. Now, I've grown up in the South. We moved around a lot before finally settling here in Louisville, where my mom's family is. But we never lived further north than Mason-Dixon. One thing most people know about the South, that I can confirm, is there's a lot of stories. To be honest, there's fuck all to do unless you're in a city like Louisville or Atlanta. So storytelling is just an easy way to pass the time. That's not to say that Louisville doesn't have its fair share of stories. One of the most supposedly haunted places in America, Waverly Hills, is here. And we have shit like the Pope Lick Monster, a half-goat, half-man thing that lives under a railway trestle. The trestle isn't far from my house. I like to listen to and read these stories, so I know a lot of them. But I had never heard of anything like the thing I saw that night when I noticed just how alone I really am out here. It was a few years ago. I was 18, just out of high school, and planning on going to Berea College. I have stories of that place too, but those are for another night. My dad had just essentially abandoned the family almost exactly a year earlier. My mom was out late with her sisters celebrating the fact that my dad was finally gone for good, and I had recently gotten home from helping my cousin paint his house. So I was tired, and it was just me and my little brother. We did the usual, played PS3. I fried some catfish for dinner, and then we watched Evil Dead 2 because I figured that at 13, he was finally old enough. After the movie, he went to bed, and I watched TV and began dozing off on the couch. I hadn't been asleep long. I knew because The Daily Show was still on, when I heard a loud thwop at the glass door to the back porch. I could see the back porch from the couch, and looked up as soon as I awoke and saw something running away. I ran to the door and looked outside, but there was nothing. My house is built on a hill, so even though from the front the living room is on the ground floor, from the back it's 1 story above the ground, and so at the porch. There's also a gate in front of the stairs that automatically closes behind you when you walk up to the porch. The only way whatever made the thwap could have gotten away before I reached the porch would be to jump over the side. Figuring some idiot, probably a drunk cousin, friend, or neighbor, had been trying to scare me and then jumped over the porch railing to get away when I jumped up, I turned on the floodlight and looked around on the ground. There was no one there, but there was a large depression in the grass and mud, as something big and heavy had landed there. Still groggy and figuring it was a stupid prank, I grabbed my flashlight and walked around the house looking for any people, and yelling at them to just stop being pricks and come out. I, of course, found no one. You never do in these tales, but I was finally beginning to fully wake up. That's when I noticed that there was something odd in the woods. Like I said, there's a lot of people, so we don't get many animals besides the occasional deer. But there's also always a ton of birds, even late at night, and they're always making noise. But there were no birds. There was some sort of rustling in the underbrush, though. Something big. And it didn't move like a deer. If you listen, you can tell when deer are moving through the woods. They're quiet and light-footed. Whatever was there that night walked heavily, making a lot of noise. And again, I figured it was a person. Determined to find them and end the foolishness, I grabbed my walking stick and set off onto the trail. As I walked, I began to think how odd it was that the birds were all quiet. Even when there are people around, they never seem to stop singing. And the deeper I went, the stronger the smell got. These stories always have some odd smell, don't they? The truth is that most people don't pay much attention to their nose, because everything has some sort of smell. But when something strange happens, your body turns all your senses up to 11, and then you finally notice the smells around you. Anyways, it wasn't exactly a bad smell. Somewhat earthy, like dirt and vegetation. Not something you would want as an air freshener, but not going to make you puke. And not totally out of place in a forest. What made it odd, though, and made it stand out was just how strong it was. Way more than the usual smells of the woods. And there was a tinge of raw flesh. Not rotting, just raw. I could still hear whatever it was moving around, so I kept going. Starting to get a bit weirded out by everything, I became more wary, ready to use my walking stick as defense. Whenever I get bored or stressed, I like to imagine I'm in some video game. I know that's dorky, but I grew up with games, and it helps me relax. Video games helped me when my relationship with my dad turned sour, and they've helped me deal with things. So that's what I started doing then. In my head, I pretended I was Naked Snake, looking for the end, or Cyan from Final Fantasy VI moving through the Phantom Forest. That was when I saw what was making the noise. It suddenly leaped across the trail. Not ran or crawled. It leaped. This being a populated area, the trail was pretty wide, wider than someone besides Michael Jordan could leap over. This obviously wasn't him. It obviously wasn't human either. It was about human height, but the way it carried itself made it seem much heavier. The most unsettling things, though, were the head and legs. It was way too dark, even with my flashlight, to make out much detail, but I could see the general shape. It had those digitigrade beast legs. You know, like a dog's hind legs, with all the extra bends, and standing on the toes with the ankle up in the air. And the head was weirdly small. but for just a moment I swear it looked at me, and I could see the eye shine from two huge eyes. Even if it had a normal-sized head, those eyes were too big, and the whole body seemed to have something hanging off it, almost like bits of plants or fabric, or shaggy but patchy fur. And the smell was stronger than ever now. The thing was moving much faster at that point, and I could hear it running through the woods, and it seemed to be trying to circle behind me. Afraid it was going to cut off my way home, I began booking it back down the trail. Unfortunately, thanks to surgery as a child, I have a bum knee and couldn't run long. Trying to force myself to keep going, I tripped. I heard the thing get closer and blindly swung my walking stick. It connected with a crack and felt more like I hit stone than flesh, snapping the stick in half.
Sup/X/ West Kentuckian reporting. I don't have any really creepy inner-woods or supernatural stories of my own besides getting that feeling of being watched while hunting in the old Paradise settlement in Muhlenberg County. Just wanted to chime in to say I am monitoring this thread.
And unfortunately for you, but fortunately for me, that's it. After I smacked the thing, I heard it run off. By the time my eyes were open again, it was gone. I went home, locked myself in my room, and slept until late in the morning. Neither my brother or neighbors noticed anything. My mom wondered why my walking stick was lying broken by the back door, but that was the only sign anything had happened. There wasn't even any blood or fur stuck to the remains of the stick. Just nothing. All I have left of that encounter are memories. I occasionally think I smell something, and the bird occasionally goes quiet, but there haven't been any events for years.
Tijuana is a weird city. If you're young, live in Southern California, but you are under 21 years old, you probably know or have visited Tijuana. I have been there like 4 times, and the only reason that you would go there is that you want to get drunk, use drugs, and have sex with cheap hookers. Sounds like any other place, but I feel that there's something off about this city. I know that Mexico is full of crime, cartels, cholos, weirdos, and corruption, but just mix it up with Californian gringos with lots of American dollars ready to be spent on the weirdest shit that you could imagine, and hungry weird Mexicans disposed to do anything that the weirdos say as long as they receive USD. This place is a nest of Mexican cartels sending drugs to the US, corrupt politicians, and dirty Americans. I have been in other places from Mexico. They have their similar crime shit, but I feel that Tijuana is different. Even if you walk in the city, you'll see what Minecraft YouTubers seek, and nobody gives a shit. Once this stupid quarantine is done, I'm going back to search the creepiest shit that Tijuana can offer. If you guys know any good stuff about that place, let me know. I'm going to need a guide so I can find something worth it. I think that the term Mexican sugar dancing comes from that city. Even when I went back home, you have to cross the San Isidro sentry box, and one day I had to hide on my car because there was a shooting. These people don't even fear the American cops. It's also a pain in the ass to go back to the US because there has to be a few fuckers that have some drugs in their cars.
Hey/X/, I want to share a story from this past Halloween. English isn't my first language, so my writing might have some flaws. In my city, there's a big party every Halloween. People gather in the parking lot of a small soccer stadium, dressed in costumes. You bring your own food and beer. No one tells you how much to drink. You can drink as much as you want. It seems like there's no security or anything. The thing is, a guy was killed at that party on October 31st. There were maybe 250, 300 people there, maybe more. But imagine a place full of people drinking as much as they could. People here like to drink until they get knocked out. A friend of my girlfriend who went to the party and was a friend of the victim says he doesn't remember anything from the night. He drank until he puked and passed out. The victim was pierced in the chest with an ice pick. I don't know how or why it happened, but he was killed in a crowded place. There were a lot of people around him, but they were too busy being drunk, dancing, or taking photos. Maybe none of them really saw the murder because no one knows who the killer is. They don't remember his face. After being stabbed, the guy walked a few meters. A cousin of my girlfriend told us he saw him and said, "I thought he was really drunk." He seemed wasted, so we gave him space. He started puking blood a few minutes later, and he fell on the ground. He was dead when the police showed up. And well, that's how someone can get killed in the middle of 300 other people. No one knows who the killer is or what he looks like, and he's still on the streets. I don't know, /X/. That party is stupid. It's in a fucking parking lot, and anyone can enter. You don't need to be dressed up. You can just walk in. And it seems that there's no security at all. People drink a fucking lot and do stupid stuff like this.
This is a personal story about something that has really frustrated me recently. There may not be anything directly paranormal or particularly scary, but I was really nervous during all of this and after. This will be a long story rich in details, as I'll try to describe what happened to me as I felt it. I'll also try to tell you my opinions and feelings on the matter, and I hope to hear yours. So, I live in an average-sized town of 60,000 inhabitants where almost nothing in particular really happens. As I said, it's always pretty damn calm, and people get bored quickly, especially socially awkward anons like me. So I began to cruise the city and the near countryside looking for something interesting. That night, I went out later at circa 11:30 p.m., heading to the warehouse district near the outskirts of the city, where my father and I once witnessed unusual vehicle activity. There's that huge parking lot near a conference center that is connected to the aforementioned district by just a couple of roads that are usually empty all day long. The whole area is cut off from the city by a 4-lane highway, and there are always vehicles and trucks heading in and out of said parking lot for no apparent reason. Sometimes they stop and drivers exchange things from their windows. Other times they stop, walk out, and then after a couple of minutes, go away. So, I went just before the highway where there are a couple of buildings and another parking lot, and I climbed to the first floor of one of the warehouses to gain a better view of what was happening on the other side. My vehicle is parked just in front of this building. I stayed here for 20 minutes and witnessed the same things I expected with the help of my binoculars, since there are roughly 400 meters from where I am to the lot. It is night, I am pretty distant, and on a building that is not on the same row as that parking lot, so I am pretty sure I won't be seen by them. Then I see a car that stood in the parking lot the whole time, revving its engine and heading to one of the roads to the exit. At first I don't mind them, but as I see them approaching the same parking lot I'm in, I feel uneasy and start walking to the emergency ladder to get back to my car. They pass in front of my building, make a U-turn, and then they go back to the entrance of the parking lot and just stop there, turning off the car. By now, I am really nervous and pretty sure they are not here randomly and probably know I am still there. I wait a minute or so, but they won't leave, so I try to pass in front of the main entrance of the warehouse to get to my car, knowing they will see me doing that. I briefly look at them before opening the door with my keys, but the car is too distant, and I cannot see if there is one or more people in the car at all. I cannot bear the tension anymore, and I decide to turn on the car anyway, and I slowly begin to turn the front of the vehicle towards the main entrance. I shift into second gear, and I proceed near the car at a decisive but not too suspicious pace, forgetting to even turn my headlights on. I pass the car that is still there, turned off, without having the courage to look at the greenhouse directly, because I don't want to look suspicious, and also because I am genuinely scared. As I go through the main entrance, I look in my rearview mirror and see that car turning its headlights on and slowly starting to exit the parking lot, maybe trying to follow me. As I see this scene, I am already on a turn, and as soon as I lose direct eye contact with that car, I stomp on the throttle to get the fuck out as fast as possible. I take a right, then a left, and I find myself on a long street. I am pretty sure they didn't see me go there, and there were 4 possible routes from where I could have escaped after they first lost eye contact with me, but nonetheless, I keep checking my rearview mirror constantly until I take another turn to be sure that I lost them. I then head into the city streets where they have no hope of finding me, and I head for my home. They are nowhere to be seen. I start to calm down, but I park the car on a back street 200 meters distant from my house in order to hide my car. Then I proceed to return to my house. Well, this might not seem interesting or scary, but all that happened seemed very strange, and I almost shit myself. In my opinion, there are just too many strange things for all of this to be just a series of coincidences. I knew there was some kind of strange deal going on there, maybe drug dealers or something more shady. What I am wondering is how the hell they realized I was there, and why they were so quick to come looking after me, some random guy on a distant building's emergency ladder. I also want to say that the building was partially lit, and probably someone was still working there. Also, there were surveillance cameras, so I was not very suspicious just standing there. I could have been a worker on break or heading home for all they knew. But somehow I perceived that they felt threatened and tried to check who the fuck I was, or maybe tried to scare me off, which they did. I admit I reacted badly, as I could just have stayed there pretending to be a worker and acting as if I didn't mind them. But what if they went out of the car and tried to come at me personally? They could have been armed or something, and I am not really accustomed to dealing with this kind of situation. As I already said, my town is pretty calm, and crime is almost non-existent. So I just tried to leave the parking lot calmly as soon as they turned off their car. Then I got out of there as fast as I could as soon as I went onto the main road. I almost hoped they were some kind of security guards, maybe called by the warehouse I was on. But that is unlikely since private security in my country is forced to use marked vehicles. Anyway, even if I don't think they will try to come after me again, and I'll surely avoid this area from now on, I hope they didn't see me or my license plate, as this car is not used just by me but also by some of my family members.
Sounds like higher up the chain drug dealers with lookouts. Warehouse security most likely knows, but are bribed to ignore it. So, maybe you should get a different car.
Well, it could be, as I already thought that might be the case. Also, usually there are commercial trucks from various delivery companies there. Probably the drivers are resting in their cabs after a day of highway traveling. Anyway, unless they stop there for other purposes, maybe they themselves deliver the shit, and the other cars are just guards. I would think drug dealers wouldn't want to deal with random truckers parking in the middle of their selling spots, right? I would also point out that this parking lot and the whole area are riddled with cameras since there are a lot of warehouses, and the parking itself belongs to the City Conference Center run by a parastatal organization. The area is on the northern outskirts of the town, but it's not like it is regarded as a dangerous place to go, nor does it seem the most appropriate place for this kind of activity. All of this makes the illegal activities hypothesis strange, but at the same time, there is something not ordinary about what happens there. It was not the first time I went there at night, actually, but it was the first time that I purposefully tried to investigate out of the car. All the other times, I simply passed near this place without stopping. Now I'm a bit concerned that someone could recognize the car while I'm using it for other activities since, after all, this is a small town, but I don't want to get rid of it. Also, I think they actually have no reason to draw attention to themselves by threatening me, as I basically did nothing other than watch them, that is, if they realized at all what I was doing.
I'm interested. I have no urbex stories because Denver has no abandoned buildings that I know of. Maybe in 30 years there'll be plenty. I guess I have a somewhat spoopy story. Be me. Be 15. Always stay at my friend's shitty trailer. We stay up all night to drink, sneak out, /both. My friend lives in a trailer park in an underdeveloped area on the border of Commerce City. Sneak out one night wearing black hoodies and carrying a scooter while he has a longboard. Check out some weird buildings by the river. Going down the street, get to an intersection. There's a street light maybe once every 200 feet. Gaze down the road to my left. I have shitty eyesight that's even worse at night. See a black silhouette at the nearest street light. I'm squinting to see it as clearly as possible. The street went downhill, but I thought the figure was rather tall from where I was, telling my friend to check it out and tell me what he sees. The figure is moving towards us but doesn't bob up and down like how people normally walk. We freak out and speed away. Calm down now, maybe 30 minutes later. There's a car behind us. It's not passing. We jump the ditch to our right to get off the road, ready to fight. A girl walks out of the darkness. The car follows her for another 15 or so feet. She gets in and they drive away. Not paranormal, but for dumb, tired kids, it got our adrenaline going.
I used to prank call 911. Let's start from the beginning. I am 23 years old and live in Virginia. I'm not going to tell the exact location for privacy reasons. I live by myself in a large 10-story apartment building on the outskirts of the city. It's easier for me that way. Now, when I was 10, my dad allowed me to check out his computer, a custom-made PC with a whopping 2 gigs of RAM, a 2 gigahertz processor, and 160 gigs of hard drive space. You could say that I really had fun with this, learning the basics of code at that time and just messing around. But sorry, I'm really getting off track. What you want to hear is what's happening right now. So 3 years ago, I decided I would rig up something in my apartment to allow my phone number to be anonymous and untraceable. It was hooked up to my 3-screen monster of a desktop with a 3.5 gigahertz processor, 32 gigs of RAM, and a 1 terabyte hard drive. Do not ask how rigged up the machine was because, frankly, I don't remember and I don't care. And even if I did remember, I wouldn't tell anyone. So at first, I just had fun dicking around, calling random numbers and saying stupid things like, "Is your refrigerator running?" or pretending to be a telemarketer. But then I decided to try something new. I started to call emergency service numbers and say that I was in need of serious medical help. I would then hang up when they said that there was no address attached to my phone and they couldn't pinpoint a location. I then moved on to making bomb threats and shit like that. Now, before you call me a terrible person for doing all this stuff, I know, and that's why I did it. But I have in fact changed in this past year and no longer do anything prank call related. In fact, I barely touch my phone anymore. So, one night I was up at around 3, calling 911, seeing what reactions I could get. I called 911 for the 4th time that night, and when they picked up the phone, I immediately knew something was wrong. They were completely quiet. No, it was more like the mic was muted or something. I checked the number I called, but it was just regular 911. Right before I was about to hang up, I heard a sort of weird, muffled grunt, then silence until it turned into deep, heavy breathing. Then, what I can only assume was a man's voice started to read off numbers and letters. 3B6 AM2, 3509, 3923, 3245, 6958, 6826. Fuck. That's my license plate number, the numbers in my address, and my credit card number. Don't bother trying to do anything with that. It expired 6 months ago. That freaked the hell out of me. I was supposed to be anonymous. So why the hell did this person know any of it? Then they said, "You will take down all of it." I was way too scared to think what that even meant until it hit me like a brick to the face. My equipment, he means my equipment. I asked, "How do you know?" "We know much about you. Now take it down or face the consequences." I didn't take down the equipment. Stupid, I know. So, 7 days later, my dad died of mysterious circumstances. After that, I took down everything, even my monster of a computer. I threw it all away, and the only thing I have left is my phone, which, as I said earlier, I barely ever touch. I have to go now. He will be back soon.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.